Gobble, gobble. Hello and welcome to Mari's Golden Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I was inspired by a not very old, but one of the OG episodes of South Park. And they encountered, I think it's Big Gay Al's Gay Animal Sanctuary. And there was this lion. And honestly, it is so stupid and silly, but it cracked me up to no end. It was, they were panning across the scene of Big Gay Al's Gay Animal Sanctuary and just showing all the animals living their best life. And there was this lion when they panned by it, and I think Al was talking about the animals or just describing them or saying, oh, there's blah, 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 and there's a blah, 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 blah hanging out over there. And it showed the lion. It was like, roar. Like, oh my gosh. I know this is likely not amusing to you at all whatsoever, but I've also had a few sips of a stout, which I will talk about later. And having that stout on a kind of an empty stomach. So I am feeling kind of happy and loopy and a little fatigued and headachy. I will not lie. But anyway, gobble gobble. Happy early Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's the seasons are coming along, and I don't know, I feel like we just had Halloween, and even that, it was kind of like, okay, Halloween. I don't know. It's Halloween, at least for me this year, was almost like the feeling I have around New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve happens, there's that build up to it, and then it happens, and it's like, I don't know, it's just like, it just quickly fizzles out. And I sort of felt like that's what happened with Halloween. Sort of, in a way. I mean, at least it happened on a weekend, and you kind of had that weekend to, let it die down. At least, that extra day of, alright, yeah, we're coming off of our Halloween high. Yeah, so, happy early Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're able to spend time with your family and friends. For those of you who are not in that position, take that time to practice gratitude and enjoy what you do have. And I have also posted a video on my YouTube channel, Mari's Golden Hour, same name. I have a video there, and check that out if you feel like taking a moment for some gratitude while also celebrating eating turkey and tons of side dishes. So, speaking of food, I was wondering, because I haven't been to a restaurant in quite some time, and I know that other people all across the country, all across the globe, people have been frequenting restaurants. I just happen to not be one of them. So I was kind of having those food fantasies of restaurants I have been to before, and I had a hankering for a certain type of cuisine from a certain restaurant, but I haven't gone to satisfy that craving. But I was thinking of what I would get when I finally do go there, and inevitably it is the same thing that I get all the time. And I was thinking that why is it that we order the same thing from a restaurant? It doesn't matter how broad our palate is. It doesn't matter how much we experiment in the kitchen, or even if we go to a new restaurant, we'll try something new and interesting off of that particular menu because it's a new restaurant. But the restaurants that we frequent, we always get the same thing every time. Well, I mean, not always, but more often than not, we tend to order the same items. Even with that same restaurant that we like to go to, and we know that the food is good, and we could experiment with other entrees. We could try out the desserts. We could try out different desserts. But no, we hold fast to that favorite entree that we have. Or maybe it's an entree and some other appetizers. I do not know. But yeah, we always stick to the same thing. Why? Why don't we get out of our comfort zone? And maybe that's one of those things to do to shake things up in life is, you know what? Instead of getting the spaghetti bolognese, I will get a chicken parmesan. Or I will try the eggplant fritters. Or I will try the basmati rice soaked in the tears of babies. I don't know. And, actually with that, I have something else I want to talk about, but I'll save that for later. It's not about tears from babies, but kind of close-ish. I made myself go out because I have been a shut-in for way too long, and I also needed some essential items, so thought, all right, it's a great time, let me get out and just smell the air, or smell the freshish air, wearing a mask, of course, and socially distancing. And so as part of that, just so I wouldn't turn into one of those 0 to 60 angry drivers, because traffic was awfully thick at that time, I was listening to really chilled out music so I could meditate while I was driving and be zen and just not have a care in the world. If somebody cut me off, it's alright, that's fine, let it roll off your back. I just wanted to have that vibe for this particular commute that I had. And so everything was great, so far so good. And then I start hearing some noises, and it sounds like this knocking and pinging, and I was beginning to freak out because I thought something was up with my car. And I kept listening, and so I slowed down, and I was likely annoying whoever was behind me, but I did signal and got over in the slower lane, even though this was a residential area that I happened to be driving through. But I kept on listening, and then I turned down the music, and I realized, that's what it was. It was coming from my Zen music that I was listening to, which kind of sort of defeated the purpose, because it took me out of my Zen, because I was beginning to stress out, thinking something was seriously wrong with my car, and I was about ready to stall out. It was pretty trippy. And I just hate that those ambient noises that are the deceptive noises that just kind of take you out of whatever mood you're in. Even if you happen to be listening to something a little bit more upbeat and animated, and you hear sirens in the music, and you're thinking that, all right, it's either an ambulance or it's a police car, and you're looking all around, and it's oh no, it's just the music. Same sort of thing, but I was listening to something that was completely chilled out, chilled and instrumental, and just basically it was so chilled out, you would see a centaur skipping along, playing the pan flute or something. That's how zen this whole thing. Wait, not a centaur, a minotaur. Yes, because a centaur is the really tall with a cyclops. Not a cyclops. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so part of my essential outing, I was in a store, and there was I was already at the counter being attended to, and then we both left the checkout area to go check on a price of something, and because I was being thrifty and looking for things that were on sale, saw the sale, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get it, but then it wasn't ringing up as such. So we were down the aisle checking out the other things and comparing it. And anyway, so went back to the counter so I could be attended to some more. And there was a woman who was standing in the section where I would stand. Basically, it's with most stores, they have outfitted their the areas where the employee is separated from the shopper, and it wasn't the actual checkout, but this is just a different section, like a pre-checkout area. So there was like the plexiglass there, and with little openings, and there was like maybe, I think, 2 or 3 different stations along this particular like little walkway, and I was in the last one, and the woman was standing in mine when it's like she needs to stand in hers. Like the woman that she was talking to was like, she was standing in front of like the opening where you could easily have a discussion with the employee. And this woman was just all up in my section. So I came up, and like she kind of wouldn't move. Like she got a little bit out of the way, but not very much. And so I asked politely, like, hey, can you please move, what did I say? Right now I can't remember my exact words, but I know that they were polite, and I said, can you please move back just to, so we can have a proper distance. And she did not like that. She did not like the fact that I told her to move, even though I asked politely. And she was just one of those people that is just not cognizant of space. She has no spatial awareness, or she does, and she just doesn't give 2 flying fucks. Sorry about my language, but that was her attitude. And she had this cart full of all this crap that she needed to have like pre-checked, and she also brought her little yippy dog inside the store with her, which personally I have a problem with that. And this little thing, if this dog was being used as like a service dog, I'd be shocked, because this thing it looked like a little tiny, like cute, fluffy little, like a little bear, like a little doll bear. It wasn't one of those, but it had that size of like being a miniature little stuffed bear. And I don't see how that is a service animal. And if this woman needs this dog to cope, I doubt that too. Again, judging by her attitude. She's one of those women that sorry to stereotype, but I'm gonna do it, because that is the energy that she was giving off, and also her attitude toward me was just very indicative of this. Just one of those women that will pick up at the drop of a hat to take a trip down to Cabo or some like touristy, cheesy beach area, and just wear flip-flops and just drink to their heart's content and spend as much money as they want. Like she is like, and even like physically, she's just not aware of her space. She's again, this is just based off of my interaction with her for the short period of time, and her behavior at that time. Not aware of her space, and will bulldoze over anybody and use her height and her space basically in order to bulldoze over other people and get her way. And she was not used to having somebody tell her no, or to please move and stay in your section so I can have my section. And I politely asked, and she wanted to give me static and be condescending in her attitude towards me. And she was condescending, and she told me to move, even though I was well within my rights to stand where I was, and she had a lot of stuff. And the thing is that she also could have positioned herself to give the stuff to the person that was doing the pre-check and still be socially distanced away from me and not be all up in my section. So, I don't know. She was just being really, really nasty. And for the most part, I've let it go, except for right now, only because I'm retelling the story. But, yeah, I just kind of like a not nice person. And it'd be one thing if she was maybe just having a bad day, or even if she was the employee of the store. I totally give them a lot of leeway because they are dealing with so many different egos and people that are not necessarily nice, and people that are condescending towards them. So, but she was not. She was just a shopper, a rather privileged one, because the stuff that she packed her cart, and it was a packed cart with things that are not cheap at all whatsoever. Not cheap. And, condescending towards me and telling me that I should move, and she has a lot of stuff. Even though, again, she has more than enough space to be in her section and not encroach on mine. And she was only in mine because we weren't there. So I said, well, okay, now I am here. And, she wanted to say that, well, she was there first. I'm like, no, actually, I was. Because, again, the stuff that I had was clearly laid out right there. And it's just that myself and the person that was assisting me, we temporarily left. And we weren't gone that long. It was a matter of seconds. And also, she would have seen, if she were aware, that I was indeed standing there, and both of us had walked away. So, anyway, letting it go, but just sharing that, really, I don't know, I just kind of put that blanket assumption out there that people in general, not general, sorry, I'm slurring my words a little bit, but people in general would just be nicer automatically, and then maybe if tempers need to flare, it'll be more of a gradual flare. It won't be like catty and nasty and bitchy right off the bat. Basically her attitude towards me, I would have expected if I were a complete asshat and just was saying venomous things to her for no reason. Anyway. So, letting it roll off my back because I've been able to just let this out and share this with you and put it out there. Rolled off. On to better things. So part of my, I was getting essential stuff, but I got sidetracked by the non-essential. And a few non-essentials that just, it's part of the reason why I avoided doing any essential shopping for like weeks, because the holidays are upon us, and there will be either the tried and true holiday favorites that make a return or a brand new product. And I was trying to have blinders on in all the essential places that I went to and just not look at anything. But, I caved, and I couldn't help it. So a few items that made it into my basket that I couldn't help it. One of them was a gingerbread stout, and I got a ginger cranberry sparkling beverage and also a rosemary nut medley mix. And I gotta tell you, everything is awesome. Awesome. I think my favorite of the three new things that I got that I had a huge moment of weakness, and I'm like, fine, you got me. It's the ginger cranberry sparkling beverage. That is so delicious. It checks off all the boxes. It has really two different types of flavors that I love, and it's just delicious and great on its own. And if you want to zhuzh it up with some extra things, like occasionally I will do, you can. Tastes quite pleasant with whiskey, and adding a little bit of sparkling flavored water. It's just so good. The gingerbread stout, that is what I had a few sips of before starting this podcast, that has my tongue still a little bit heavy. But in my defense, I had it on a pseudo-empty stomach. And I say pseudo-empty because earlier in the day, for I guess it would have been like lunch or late lunch, I had I cracked open the rosemary nut mix, and it's trying to remember all the nuts that are there. I think it's almond, hazel, cashew, pecan or pecan, tomato, and I think there might be one other, maybe a Brazil nut, possibly. But what I thought was kind of interesting and cute and just nice and endearing is that even on the back of that, even though they list the nuts that are there, on the back they have photos of the nuts with like arrows and the words pointing, or the word with an arrow pointing to the nut. And I was thinking, well, if people don't know what these nuts are by now, but if somebody is incredibly new to nuts and maybe their palate, sorry to repeat that word palate, but I feel like using it right now. But if they are new to the world of nuts and maybe they just have like a very basic eating habit, and they have never heard of nuts before, or they've never tried anything beyond peanuts, I guess this particular can with the pictures, that's for them. But yeah, the rosemary nut mix, really good. It's a decent coating of the rosemary stuff. And although I could, for my taste, I could use a lot more rosemary. It still has rosemary, you can still taste it, but I would not mind if it was just doused in a lot more of it. If you are looking for a laugh, go to, or just Google in these words. McSweeney's.net is where you can find this. It's a decorative gourd season, motherfuckers. That is the name of this article. It was dated October 9th of 2009 by Colin Nissan. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It is hilarious. If you haven't checked it out already, please do. It is funny. You will not regret it. And it's it's great. It's really, really good. There's plenty of quotables in there, at least for me. Something else I came across, and I feel like this is very recent. Israeli scientists, they have claimed to successfully been able to reverse the biological aging process. And they do this by using oxygen. And apparently what they did, this study ran the course of, I think, exactly 3 months. I don't know if it went a little bit over, a little bit under, not too sure. But they did it with people who were over 64. I don't know how many people were in this study, but and basically what they did, they put these people in a pressurized chamber and they gave them pure oxygen. And they were exposed to this for 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 3 months. And what they found with the studies was that not only was the aging process delayed, but it was reversed. And what it did was reverse the markers of aging, which are shortened telomeres and senescent cells. And I'm going to leave it at that because, you know what, I know I should explain what the telomeres are. Let's see, I'm trying to do this from what I read and also just from other reading. Telomeres, the DNA, and the strands of DNA, which basically, once they are used, I believe they divide and they keep on dividing, and as we age, those telomeres are shortened. They reach a certain length, and then after that, they just stop. And when that happens, that sort of begins, or not begins, but that's what leads to the decline in age, and other issues and whatnot. And so anyway, the other stuff that I've read, actually last year, I was doing some reading on this, and I believe there are other ways that you can repair the damage of these shortened telomeres and the senescent cells. Actually, these telomeres, the DNA, once they stop that division and they shorten, that's when they become the senescent cells. So basically, like, best way I can describe it, like zombie cells. So I believe that one of the processes, it's I don't know if it's with supplements, with either like stem cells, and I think there was some other way that you can help with that. But right now I just cannot recall what that process is. But this one, as far as using the pure oxygen is concerned, that is a new one, and that wasn't in some of the readings that I had of coming across the telomeres. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It looks like it works. I'm sure what they're going to do is just monitor these people that had that the study conducted on, and see. I don't know how long they're going to monitor these people. Could be a few months, could be a year, no idea. But I suspect, if all is well, this will come out on the market super duper expensive. So of course only the wealthy people will have like that realistic access to it. I see this coming out, if it's not already, for those who do have the money and the means, which likely they already are hip to this, and they already have a pressurized chamber like on their grounds, or they have a place where they can go. But as far as this being like a mass product, I will give this, realistically, I'll give it a couple years. And I'd say maybe 3 years to where it will be affordable for people. Staying in the realm of science, I don't know if you saw this, but the headline was such: markers of grow your own human steaks say meal kit is not technically cannibalism. That caught my attention. And so a scientist, an artist, and an industrial designer, they walk into a lab. But basically, they were commissioned by a Philly art museum for an exhibit that was done last year. And the project that they did, it was part of a critique of lab-grown meat and the industry surrounding that. And basically just saying that this lab-grown meat is not as animal-friendly as we think it is. And this, what they did, this project, was like using human cells in order to grow meat. And their thinking was, well, if you take your own cells, and I don't know if it's like taking like a chunk, or you're swabbing the cells. I don't know exactly what the process and how that would go down, but cells from your cheek, they are saying, would be used, and it would grow. And I think it was like a matter of days, and I'm sorry that I cannot remember for their particular experiment, like how long that process would take. I don't know if it's like a 15-day thing, or if it was like a few weeks. That I can't remember, but it was a pretty short amount of time, and it is far from being established or perfect. This is still in like the early stages of things, but yeah, it looks like it's a combination of taking the cells from your cheek. I don't know if that would be like just cutting off some of the flesh of it, or just cells. And I believe some of your own blood to help cultivate it. But the experiment that they did, it was it was like using the waste, or like not the waste, but like the expired blood. They used expired blood in order to be able to grow this. And its blood, I guess, would otherwise be thrown out, but they were able to use it. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Even for the lab-grown meat, I'm like, I don't know. That needs to be out for a while in order for me to try it. And again, like I said, they're saying that the lab-grown meat is not as animal-friendly, and they're using blood from slaughtered cows. And yeah, I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to gross anybody out, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, human steaks on your way, coming to a countertop of the kitchen near you. What else I got? Oh, so a Chinese submersible, it reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench on Friday, and which I guess it's a historic moment because not too many people go down there, of course, because it's incredibly deep, and not too many submersibles have gone down there. But this one was manned, and apparently they were saying it's just teeming with life at the bottom, and of course there wouldn't be anything huge, but just a lot of tiny little creatures that are able to feed off the sediment that happens to fall down there. And I don't know if I would do it. And yeah, this comes from after watching a bunch of those sci-fi films, sci-fi / maybe horror / thrillers of things that go down underwater. I'm sure many of you have seen those films that I'm talking about, and my most recent is the one that had, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but Kristen Stewart was in it. Yes, that Kristen Stewart from the vampire stuff. It was a really trippy movie, and I just, I don't know. Check it out if you want to. Just type in Kristen Stewart underwater, and I'm sure the movie will pop up. But I don't like what's down there. I just feel like even though there's a bunch of tiny little creatures that live down there, there could be other things. Is there alien life down there? Is it prehistoric life that has just been able to thrive all this time, and they weren't affected by what was going on above ground? I mean, it's pretty deep, very, very deep. So, I don't know, just so much foreign stuff down there. It's trippy to me, and I don't know that I would personally make a trip like that. I am not, I'm not raising my hand to go down to the Mariana Trench or live underwater for anything, and I'm not raising my hand to go up in space. Yeah, like, just that, you guys can have that. For those that are interested, you can have my seat. That I'm fine. All right, well, speaking of aliens, so I did mention last week that I would touch upon my alien stories, and why did I bring up the alien stuff last week? Because I was just checking out clips of podcasts where they were talking about alien life and UFOs. So, as far as my alien stories are concerned, I have, as far as I know, I have not seen an alien. I could have, but I was unaware. I've had plenty of trippy things happen, and I may get into some of those things later on down the road, but for right now, I'll just keep it strictly to, like, aliens and UFOs. So aliens, I don't think I've seen one, but I could have, and I just didn't know, I wasn't aware. You know, maybe aliens, they look like we do, and they just are from outer space. They're from some other planet, and they're able to travel here. Maybe I did run into an alien, and they had a superb cloaking device that made them look like they were human when they did not exactly look like we do. Maybe I ran into an alien, or an alien was nearby and it was completely invisible. I have no idea. Again, more cloaking. But as far as seeing UFOs, or things in space. Now, so I'll start off with, I was working in a place called Steamboat Springs, which is in Colorado. It's roughly about 3 hours, a little bit over 3 hours. I think it's like northwest of Denver. So there's this place called Strawberry Park, and it was a really, really, really cool place to hang out. Like, it's just beautiful. And they have natural hot springs that are there. They have man-made hot springs, which are in the like along Main Street in the main part of the ski town, but up in Strawberry Park are like the natural hot springs. And they have, I think, like 7 or 8 different pools. And they also have like a little private swimming area. I think actually maybe 2 of them. You can get massages there, water massages, and like the private like table massage. You can dip in all the different pools of water that they have. And the different pools of water, they have different temperatures. And it's awesome. And at night, clothing is optional. And you can also bring your own beverage, as long as it's not glass. Now, I don't know if things have changed since I've been there. For all I know, maybe those rules, they got rid of those particular rules, and maybe nobody is allowed to bring in any alcohol, and you got to keep your clothes on. Have no idea. But at the time that I went, clothing was optional, as long as it was at night. You can't do that during the daytime because, there's families and people can see things. But at night, if you feel like wearing your bathing suit, you can, or you don't have to. Totally cool, totally up to you. So I've been there a few times, but this one particular night, a group of us ended up reserving the private pool, and we were all just hanging out, drinking, and just enjoying ourselves. And I looked up, and because of the higher elevation, you can just see all the stars. You can just see everything in the galaxy, like just everything, because you don't have that light pollution at all. And for where we were, they do have lights, but it's very, very low. They have more lights in the so you can at least see where you're going and walk around in the more common areas, but it's pretty dark, and so it behooves you to have some sort of a torch. So I remember looking up and just like being blown away by being able to see everything. It's just boom, such a blanket of all the constellations. Just oh God, it's like you are just submerged in space, but you are on Earth. It is just so packed and beautiful. It's just gorgeous. So anyway, I'm leaning back and just enjoying this hot temperature in the middle of this summer night. It's decent breeze and just like it's great. And I look up and I see something moving, and it has like a steady pace that's going, just slowly moving across the sky. And I can't remember if I pointed it out to anybody or if I just like was dazed and I'm like, whoa, what's that? And I just was so busy watching it, I just was kind of mesmerized. And I can't remember if I asked anybody that night. I don't think I did, because everybody was in quite jovial spirits on so many different fronts. So I think I just kind of kept that one to myself, and I brought it up to the gentleman that really, really cool. He was the beau of the person who was my boss at the time. And he said, and I described what I saw up in the sky. He goes, "Oh yeah, those are satellites." And I was like, "What? Really? Wait, I can see satellites like with my own naked eye? What?" So that was just trippy. It was pretty cool actually to be able to see a satellite. That's how high the elevation is, and that's like how like dense these stars. Like I could see everything, like, and even seeing a satellite travel like in our atmosphere. Like that's just, or well, out of the atmosphere. Well, no, it's our atmosphere. If it's just traveling the globe, I mean that's our atmosphere. All of it is our atmosphere because it's circling us, Earth. So that was that. Skip to, I think the next one was, I was back home and driving home from work, and where I was driving, it's a pretty not desolate or deserted, but it's a country road, so not a lot of people out, not a lot of houses, and this was late at night, so everybody is all like in for the night. Excuse me, sorry about that. And I remember looking up, and I don't know why, and I saw something up in the sky, and I'd never seen anything that looked like it. Best I can describe it, like it looked like a triangle, and it had, I remember seeing red and blue lights. I don't know if there was any white on it as well. And again, up until that point, and even actually since then, I'd never seen anything that looked like that. Now, I, of course, questioned, like, all right, is that an airplane? Is that a, because it easily could have been, but I just remember being able to get a good look at it, and it wasn't an airplane, and even, because not long after that, I was able to pull over and stop because I was almost home. And again, lights, because I'm way out in the country, when I was driving around, I don't have the light pollution, so I was able to see, like, what was going on up in the sky, and it was like a very like hard triangle, and not that triangle of just a plane flying by, and the noise, like even with airplanes, like you're able to hear it, I couldn't hear anything. So the other thought that I had is that maybe it's one of those stealth bombers, but from what I could remember, like I don't think it would have lights on it. And definitely not like red and blue lights, like, hey, look at us, because I guess, it's supposed to be stealth, so I don't know. So that's one of those, I'm not too sure what was up there or what I saw. It also could have been something that was experimental, because this was quite some time ago. This is before drones, before drones were made public, let's put it that way. So, could have been something that government agencies were testing out. I don't know. I know it's not a weather balloon, because it wasn't flying like that. So, and then another one I had, I was out in a section of Los Angeles called Eagle Rock. It's very east, or it's east of like Los Angeles, or the east section of Los Angeles. And I was at a gathering, kind of a small gathering, or it was like sort of like the after party, and just a few of us were hanging out, and we were hanging out on the front porch area, and or like the front yard, but it's all gated, so it's like an extended porch, whatever. So we're hanging out in the yard, and I was chilling out and just listening to everybody else's conversation, and looked up at the sky, and I saw, and I was just looking at the stars. I was able to see, like, not all the stars, but I was able to see some where I was at in this particular part of town. And so I was looking at it and just like meditating and appreciating the sky, and just just had that moment of reflection. And one of the stars started moving, and so that took me out of it. And so I thought, all right, maybe I just imagined that it was stationary, because of my enjoyment of the party that I had at the time. I thought, all right, my eyes were playing tricks on me, but I wasn't feeling that affected by the merrymaking of this particular party that I was at. But enough just to be really casual and zen. So Anyway, so the star started moving, and it moved slowly in one direction, and then it stopped, and it slowly moved. I can't remember if it moved back to where it was, but it wasn't like just moving back and then moving forth. Like it moved for like it was stationary, and then it moved, and then it stopped, and then I think it moved back along that same plane, and then it ended up moving someplace else, and then I can't remember if it like moved away and then eventually it came back, but it was like just kind of taking its time. Like it wasn't like the satellite that I saw in Colorado was moving a lot faster than what I saw. And so I'm looking at it, and again, I'm basing this off of, seeing stars, looking up at the sky at things, seeing airplanes, and so using that, and I understand depth perception is going to be different, but it looked like a star, like where it was and how it would, like comparing it with all the other stars, it looked like a star. Like that's how far it was. And again, I've also seen satellites. So it was, and I thought, all right, well maybe it is a satellite, but I thought satellites are just constantly moving. Like I didn't think that they stopped. And then on top of that, would it, like, just the way it was moving, like it, I don't know, the way that it was positioning itself was just really odd. And so, where I was, I thought, well, it possibly could be a satellite, and it's just moving weirdly. Because where I was located, like JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, is not too far away. So I thought maybe they're doing something, but again, the whole thing is odd. So then I pointed it out to the people I was with, and I'm like, hey, do you guys see that? And of course, when they look up, it stops moving. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that star. Like, and I was trying to like map it out so they could see and keep looking at what I was looking at. And I'm like, that thing is moving. They're like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. You have been enjoying the merrymaking of the party. They didn't say that, but along the lines of that. And I said, no, that thing is moving. Like, okay, yeah, whatever. And they kept on talking. And then, of course, when they weren't looking at it, that's when it moved. And I'm like, all right, look. See, you guys have to see this. And I can't remember if it happened again where it just stopped. And I'm like, all right, now something's, messing around with me. But I can't remember if one of them actually saw it too, or they're like, yeah, that's just, I don't know what that is. And they dismissed it. So I was on my own with that one. Now, skip ahead to, I was at a New Year's Eve party, and I was in West Hollywood. And I was on the rooftop for this particular party. And so it was a private party, and we just had the use of the whole rooftop. So we were hanging out and enjoying the merrymaking of the night, and the party was in a couple of different places, like in the home and then also on the rooftop. And of course, everybody moved to the rooftop just to celebrate the countdown. And so I was I stood off to the side. I think I finished one conversation, and I was about ready to take a seat, but I happened to look up in the sky and, just checking out random fireworks and things that were taking place in other parts of Los Angeles. And because depending upon your elevation, you're able to see fireworks in different cities, or definitely the fireworks that people are not supposed to shoot off in different neighborhoods. But anyway, so checking that out, I happened to be looking up at the sky, and I looked up, and it was just really weird. Like I saw, it's hard to describe this, but it looked like comets, and you've seen the comet, and you've seen the tail of the comet. That's what it looked like that was flying in the air, and I saw one, and it flew, south, and then it came back up, and then I saw, what looked like several more, and they were all flying in a V formation, easily could have been, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 or 7, flying like that. And because it was such a formation, I thought, all right, well, maybe there's I don't know, I usually don't see that at night, especially if it's a celebratory whatever. That's usually reserved for the daytime. Maybe it'll be New Year's Day for the parade, and they'll have the flyovers, and there'll be planes will be in formation. But these didn't look like planes. It had the shape of a comet, and the tail, just that, it was just weird, really weird. And so the one was flying south, and it came back, and then a bunch more were in a formation, and then they flew south, and then they were gone for a little bit, and then they came back. And I was looking, and I can't remember if the host came by me just to see how I was doing, or if he came by me and he was like, do you see that? Do you see, so basically he saw it too. And I'm like, I can't believe what I'm looking at. And he goes, oh my gosh, yeah, I can't believe it either. And so then, both of us were like, hey guys, look at that. Look at what's up there. And can you believe, and people refused to look. People were too busy talking, but both of us were animated enough, and plus it's the host as well, so I get maybe potentially ignoring me, but the host, the host of course is always going to be the star of the party. So to ignore the host like that and dismiss the host, and this is a bunch of people, a lot of people on this rooftop, nobody decided to acknowledge it at all. Nobody wanted to acknowledge it, or nobody saw anything, but we were ignored. And if it wasn't for the host seeing it, I kind of, I don't know, I just felt I had some validation because he saw it too. And so they were just doing these weird flying formations, and we just watched it. And then all of a sudden, and they ended up going south, and then coming back up north to where we were, I think maybe twice, if not at the most 3 times. And then they just disappeared. And then the way it flew up, it's the bright part was leading the way. I think that's what it was. It was just the way that they took off, and they took off up in the air. They didn't go north or south. They took off up in the air. And it was just weird. And as far as the distance of roughly where they could have been hovering, I would say if I were driving maybe 10, maybe at the most 20 minutes west of where we were at that point in time. So they weren't flying directly above us, but they were off a little further to the west, but still close enough that we could see everything. Really weird and trippy, and nobody wanted to acknowledge it. People refused to look, because I was even hey, look at this. I made direct eye contact with the closest person next to me, who happened to be sitting down, and I'm like, look at that. And they just, I was ignored, completely ignored. Even with the host standing next to me, kind of saying, oh my gosh, look at this. I don't know. So, who knows what's out there? Again, it could have been a government experimental thing, some new technology that was out there, but this was many years ago, at least 3, if not maybe 4 years ago, I think. So, I don't know. It could have been a UFO, an actual alien spacecraft. It could have been the government doing stuff. Who knows? But I am just reporting what I saw. And it was trippy, and it was even more trippy that nobody wanted to acknowledge it. Nobody else, just flat out refusing it. So because of their refusal, it made me wonder, like, okay, there might be something to this. Yeah, I can't remember what else was going on, but again, just that whole thing was just real trippy. And like the speed that that it flew, and yeah. And I know I've seen some other trippy things, like with clouds and the formations, and like it just made me wonder, like the first thing I thought was like, I wonder if that cloud is cloaking something, because that is weird. And it just stuff that stayed in the air with nothing else around it, like the whole entire time. Just weird. And but luckily, even with that, I had somebody else who was in another part of the city see it as well. And they're like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not tripping. So yeah, it's unexplained things. And I don't know, a lot of these unexplained things, whether they be ghosties, aliens, what have you, even if we don't find out answers during our own personal lifetime, I have the belief that when we die, when we leave this mortal coil, that we will find out all the answers to the questions that we've had. We'll just, automatically know those answers. Like it'll be downloaded in some way. At least that's just my belief. And you know what? On that trippy note of aliens and things and weird stuff up in the sky and weird stuff in the sea, I'm going to wish you a very happy early Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're able to spend it with those that you love, friends, family, what have you. And if you can't, then love yourself, and then you can spend it with a loved one. So there you go. What else? If you are able to, cook your favorite comfort foods. I know that I considered doing that on Thanksgiving, but due to some circumstances, dealing with a lot of plumbing issues and work that I hope will be done soon, I am kind of curbing any sort of big grand cooking extravaganzas, and maybe I'll save it as a post-Thanksgiving thing, or I'll hold it off for Christmas. Yeah, you know what, I think that's what I'll do. I'll do it for Christmas. So with that, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for listening and hanging out with me. Feel free to check out my YouTube channel. I do post video clips along with the podcast there. You can get it on Spotify, and I think an Apple iTunes thing, I think. But yeah, just wherever you can podcast, you should be able to hear me. Thank you so much, and enjoy your golden hour. And don't forget, love yourself, be kind to yourself, and give yourself a hug.